Broads Media.
What is going on, everyone? Okay, so we have something brand new here at Broads Media, and it's called Schmoozed. What we're going to do once a week is bring on a guest. We're going to bring on guests once a week, and we're going to schmooze them. Schmoozed. I'm looking forward to it. Episode 1. The GOAT. Marc Zumoff. It's just that simple. No more words need to be said. Enjoy the show. What is going on, everyone? Welcome on into the pilot episode of Schmoozed. Marc Zumoff is our first guest. He's about to get schmoozed by me. How about that? I'm excited. Zoo, I can't believe it. You know, when I saw the news, it hit me. It hurt me. I was in pain. I'm so happy for you, though. How are you doing on this fine morning? You're outside. You're drinking your coffee. I got my coffee. The last time we did this, we talked about coffee. That's what I do with my life. But what's going on? How's life treating you?
First of all, I'm into the Kelly cap. That's the first thing, the Kelly cap. All right. So you started my day off great. Forget the coffee. I needed the Kelly cap more than the coffee. Number one. Number two, I'm sorry that I hurt you. You know, you're one of my boys, and I don't want you to feel bad in any way, shape, or form. But listen, a man's got to do what he's got to do. And for me, I feel it was the right thing. It's not that I didn't like what I did. I mean, it was a life's ambition for me to be the voice of the Sixers, having grown up in Northeast Philly. But as I said in my essay that I published in late June, I'm in the fourth quarter of life. And when you're in the fourth quarter, you got to get busy with whatever it is that you want to do for the rest of your life. So that, in essence, is what I'm doing.
Absolutely. Now, do you still have the drive, though? Like, when you call those games, is it still there? Because when I read your letter and all that, and I put it together, I always put it in perspective of what I did, because I played hockey my whole life from age 4 to 22, and then I had to make the decision because I felt that passion for something else, which was sports radio, so I hung up the skates. But I asked myself, do I still have that drive for hockey? And I did, but it wasn't enough for me to fully still commit to it. So, you know, with where you are today, do you still have a little bit of drive? Is the drive still fully there, and you just wanted to go in another direction?
I have a drive to live and experience life. So I'll take whatever energy that I gave to developing my career, to performing as I did, to preparing as I did, to being the TV voice of the Sixers for 27 years, and just put that into other areas. I'll still be a fan. I'll still be watching. I'll still be following. Not to the extent that I did. I mean, you know, to do 4 or 5 hours of homework for a game, you were really getting down and deep. You know, the 15th guy on the Sacramento Kings roster, because you have to. I don't have to do that anymore, but I will still watch, and I'll be familiar with the players, and I'll be a fan, and I'll be tweeting and doing all that stuff. So, yeah, I do have a drive, but it's a different kind of drive. Or maybe I should just say that the drive is being channeled in a different direction.
Now, when you watch games, I mean, I'm sure you did this. This could have been a question over the last however many years you were in this and all. But just in general, when you watch a game now, do you think you'll be thinking of the broadcast angle of it the whole time? You're so, I don't know, intensely involved in it where you're thinking about the play-by-play announcer, what they're saying, what they're doing, TNT broadcast, this and that? Or do you think you can take a step back and just watch the game of basketball?
I think I will always watch the games as I have been, which is exactly the way you described. Yes, I'll be into the game for the game. I'll be rooting for the Sixers and all of that, but I can't help it. I mean, this was my profession forever. So, of course, things I'm going to look for in terms of either critiquing to myself or things that I like or I don't like. I watch movies the same way. A lot of times I'll lose touch with the storyline for a second because, hey, look at that edit, or look at this tracking shot, or this camera angle, or whatever. So I'm a student of the arts. And listen, when I listen to Broads, I'm all about the content, but I'm all about how is he presenting that content? Is he compelling? And is he making a good argument? I take that apart as well.
That's a lot of pressure. It's funny you bring up the cuts. It's funny you bring up the cuts, though, because the other day, and this isn't the first time I did this, my fiance and I were watching TV. We were watching a movie, and I go, that was a weird cut. And she goes, what are you talking about? I'm like, you didn't see the camera, the way that it cut, and someone was out of frame here. And
right.
Like, what are you talking about? She doesn't pick up on those things.
Right.
We pick up on those things. So
of course you do. That's what you do.
Yeah, exactly. So now I'm curious because, you talk about that letter you put out there and all the things you want to do, learn a language, learn an instrument. Is there one thing that you want to do more than the rest?
That's a really good question. And I would say probably not. It's just all out there on a platter. It's like a smorgasbord, and I'm just going to take a little bit of everything and see what I like. I might dive into something and say, hey, you know what? I'm really into this, and maybe devote more time to that than not. But I do want to teach. That's one thing that I want to do, and I think I have the opportunity to do that. At least I'm hoping. And yeah, play a musical instrument, get better in the kitchen, travel with my wife, just experience life or whatever it is that it has to offer. And the beautiful thing about life is, bro, you don't know what's going to come down next. So you're looking over here and all of a sudden, hey, that's pretty interesting. Maybe I'll devote a little time to that. And maybe I'll just devote a month to whatever. So, hey, listen, right now I'm fortunate enough to be building a house. So I'm really into like construction and asking questions and things that I never would have known about how to build a house. I'm learning.
Oh, little HGTV. What is it? Joe and Diana? Little love it or list it? Are you big into love it or list it?
It's funny you would say that because I've always had this thing about truck driving. And I said to my wife, you know what? My first year after I retire, let's go and become tractor trailer drivers. We'll go cross country and we'll take video of it and we'll make it into a pilot and see if we can make it into a TV show. But she didn't like the idea, so it never got off the ground.
Yeah, you know what? They normally get what they want more times than
not. Yes, they do, and you're just seeing that now.
It's crazy. I got to go to Lowe's. I went to Lowe's 2 times yesterday in one day, Sue. I mean, that is the most homeowner thing I've ever experienced in my life. I went to the same Lowe's, had to go back. I mean, come on. It's, hey, can you go pick this up? Well, I'm not going to say no. I want dinner later.
Are you a do-it-yourselfer?
I'll be honest with you. No, look, I have someone who cuts my grass. I'm willing to spend that money. I'll keep my hands clean. I don't want to hurt my voice when I'm out there singing, cutting the line. The voice is it's something you need in this business.
Yeah, right. It's the truth. That's right.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So you knew that you were going to make this decision by the end of the season, I would imagine. So what was it like that last game when you knew that you were going to shock the city, but nobody else knew about it?
You say shock the city, and I'll be quite honest with you. There was a small group of people who knew before the actual announcement. People were saying to me, you know what, wait till you see the reaction. It's going to be beyond what you expected. And when you just do your job like I did, and really that's all I did, I was devoted to it. I stayed in my lane. I didn't get involved with any of the adulation or, positive or negative stuff. I just did my thing. And then it was literally an explosion. So I decided, you know what, I'll just sort of bask in it because you're only going to retire once. And it was pretty amazing to see some of the reaction. Fans, colleagues, neighbors, people I had heard of or heard from in a while and not have heard of were getting in touch with me. And I have vowed to return all the texts, emails, and phone calls. It's going to take a while. Forget the social media. If I try to go back on the Twitter notification line, it's going to take me forever. But for all of you who I've not gotten back to on Twitter, I am grateful. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. It's crazy. For my whole life, you're Sixers. You're Sixers basketball. I've never heard anything else other than Marc Zumoff. So it's going to be a transition. But hey, look, someone's going to step in and do a phenomenal job, I'm sure.
I'm sure. I hope so. Listen,
yes.
I'll say one thing in our town, Broads. We invite our voices into our home. We love sports so much that the voices who come with it become members of the family. That's something that I've come to realize. So again, thank you all for allowing me to be a member of your family.
That's very true. No doubt about it. And I want to get into the beginning of everything because I'm so curious with your passion early on. Were you a mute the TV guy and let me give this thing a whirl? I remember one thing you gave me a lot of advice, but the one that I remember early on was in this business now, you got to be very versatile. You got to know how to edit. You got to know how to be on camera. You got to know how to this, know that. And one thing you mentioned was you got to know play-by-play, like just know everything basically. So I was like, is there something I'm missing in this play-by-play thing? So I muted the Flyers, and I'm trying to do my best. He shoots, he scores! I'm like, this is terrible.
That was good.
I can't do this. But were you early on a mute the TV? Like, when did you know this is it? I'm going to do this.
A story that I've told a lot lately was when I was a kid, I started listening to AM top 40 rock radio maybe when I was 11. And I was fascinated by the fact that the DJs would do what's called talking up a record, where you would hear the intro, they'd give the weather or some kind of an announcement, and then all of a sudden they'd stop talking and the lyrics came in. And I thought that was really cool. So I tried that myself. Back in the day, it was vinyl. So I was spinning the vinyl records. And I found that I enjoyed the whole rhythm of speech, announcing, and that sort of thing. Then I became a Sixers fan. My father took me to a game, actually, the first year that the team came from Syracuse. It was back in 63, 64. And I combined my love of announcing with my love of sports. And yes, there weren't a lot of Sixers games on TV, but when they were there, I turned the sound down. Then when I was a kid, I would make up games in my head, which is kind of weird. In fact, back in the day, we only had like 3 or 4 TV channels. And if you put the TV on a channel where there was no broadcasting station, you would hear static. And in my crazy head, it sounded like a crowd. So I would regulate it, and you would hear the crowd in the background. And I'd make up the game, and here's Greer underneath the Chamberlain hook shot, good. And here comes the crowd. So, yeah. And this is my message for kids. That was like a really nerdy thing to do. Like while kids were having parties and stuff like that, I was off, doing stuff like that. But in the end, look what happened for me. So if you find yourself as a kid doing things that are different or seem weird to other kids, take pride in that. Don't necessarily think that you have to be part of them. Be yourself and do that thing, because you never know where it's going to lead.
Yeah, that's incredible. It kind of ties to my story. I remember when I was in college and, I played college hockey at the time. My teammates were doing their thing and I'm locked in my room listening to all different types of sports radio hosts nationally, locally, writing down pros and cons and things I love, things I don't love. And, just all kinds of things like that, studying the craft and practicing the craft. And it's just crazy. It's wild to see it all play out after you put so much time in and all that. And you definitely can tell that, you let that cry. When Seth Curry hit that 3, that's exactly what I think I heard of, that 3 in the playoffs at home, where
Right.
you let it breathe
Yeah.
a year. And then
Yeah.
there's that
Right.
crowd going. That's what you just laid out there. It's
Right.
crazy.
And I've read where you said that. In fact, you and I have talked where you've listened to other people. And that's what you do. That's what people do. You listen to others, you decide what it is that you like, what it is that you don't like, and then you take those characteristics and you incorporate them. You don't imitate, but you incorporate. And you've done a terrific job. And I'm going to tell you this, you mark my words, I'll be gone, but 40 years from now, while you're still doing this, you listen to how you sound now as opposed to how you sounded, how you're going to sound 40 years from now. And you'll be amazed at the difference.
Oh, I could imagine. I actually have some of my older tapes from episode 1 of Sports Talk with Bros from 2016.
There you go.
And it makes me sick. I cringe. It's like, I did this, but I can also pick up on similar mannerisms and things. I'm like, wow, that's still that face. That face is still going strong.
Right. So here you go. How's this? There were times where I'd listen back to a broadcast, even this past season, and could hear things that I did when I was a kid. And I think it's similar with athletes, football, basketball, the stuff that they did as kids on sandlots or playgrounds or any of that stuff in Shoes Up games. Shoes Up, do they still have that? Anyway, that carries over. So that kind of stuff they still do, let's say in the NBA or NFL or Major League Baseball or even hockey today.
So I want to, I'm curious because I want to go in a direction of, look, you're a pro's pro. Everybody knows that. You could do this in any city. But how big was it for it to be the city that you grew up on? That's something you stress. When you think about what if you had to do this for Milwaukee or do this for Phoenix or do this for another city, well, you would have knocked it out of the park and been the greatest there also. I wonder, how big was it and how impactful was it that it was the 76ers?
In retrospect, Broads, I can't put it into words, but I will put it into words anyway and tell you this. I always say that there are more U.S. senators than people who do what I do in the NBA. Just English language TV broadcasters, there's 30 of us. And there's 100 U.S. senators, obviously. So the opportunity to get to be a TV announcer in the NBA the odds are astronomical. Narrow that even more, and you're going to be doing the games for the team that you grew up rooting for. That's like, that's like playing the lottery, and the odds of winning that. So as I look back, I say to myself all the time, I don't know what I did to deserve it, but I am just eternally grateful that things fell the way they did for me. And I would not have lived my life any other way other than the way I lived it.
You did a great job doing it. It's got to be weird. It's got to be different. There's no denying that. Let's transition a little bit to the
Yeah.
basketball side of things. I want to get your thoughts on what's going on. So obviously, this is a hot off season. A lot going on, a lot of speculation. Every day it's something different. Damian Lillard, Colin Sexton, the Sacramento Kings. Every day it's something new. It's probably going to be that way for the rest of the offseason until something happens. But, how about we start with the way the season ended? Your thoughts, your feelings on how it all played out.
First of all, there is no way the Sixers should not have beaten the Atlanta Hawks. I think everybody feels that way. I'm sure top to bottom in the Sixers organization, they feel that way. And, you always equivocate and say not to take credit away from the Atlanta Hawks, and you don't want to take credit away from them because they won the series, and they won a game 7, and they won a lot of road games in that series. So let's not take any credit away from them. But when you're blowing sizable leads like the Sixers did, particularly games 5 and 6, that's something that you can't you can't wash over. That should not have happened. I have seen all the criticisms of Ben Simmons because I think people are always looking to pinpoint a reason or the biggest reason why a team failed. And Ben Simmons did not have a good playoff series, to say the least. But my goodness, and even just take game 7, for example, the fact that he did not take that dunk when he had it, it's just a small part of the problem. This is a 48-minute game you're talking about. You're talking about over 100 possessions in the game where things should have or could have gone differently offensively or defensively. Joel Embiid, who was a hero for us because he played with a bum knee, had what? I want to say 8 turnovers in that game, including a critical one late. And again, not to put it on Joel because he had an MVP-like season, but that was another issue. And then, the coaches will give you 20, 25 other reasons why the team either lost game 7 or lost the series. So, I do want to say one thing about Simmons before we go on to another topic. We gave Joel Embiid a lot of credit for playing at a bum knee in the playoffs, credit that he deserves. But I think we look at mental health differently. Ben Simmons clearly had a mental issue in the playoffs. He was missing free throws at a clip that was a lot different. At least he was a 60, 65% free throw shooter. And at least when he had the opportunity to take a dunk, he did because that's primarily how he scored. But he wasn't even doing that at his normal rate. There was clearly a mental issue. He admitted that he had a mental issue. So I'm saying to the fans and all the other ones who teed off of him, whether it was Shaquille O'Neal or Stephen A. Smith, they had a grand old time dumping on Ben Simmons. And yes, he was part of the problem. But my goodness, let's understand mental health the same way we understand physical health and try to help him deal with that aspect of things as well.
Absolutely. No doubt about it. And I'll be honest with you. Look, if throughout that series, was I upset with him? And of course, and would I trade him? I think if I go into the basketball reasons why I think it would be a good move for the Sixers, I can give you a bunch of basketball reasons why I feel that way. But I do have conflicting thoughts because I just watched Giannis in the playoffs. And this has been something I stressed at the end of the Brett Brown era, who, look, it was time, but I just felt that he was the scapegoat and every problem was his fault. Just like you're saying with Ben Simmons, like every problem is not his fault. He's part of the problem, but there's a lot of reasons why things happened. I'm watching Giannis lose, finally get over the hump. That's how this league works. Michael Jordan swept bad boy Pistons.
Agreed.
Yeah, it's part of that journey. But, there are basketball concerns of spacing and the ball handler needing to shoot. Like things like that is what makes me feel passionate about the moving Ben Simmons part of things. But yeah, there is this part of me that goes back and forth. Are they ready to win yet? You have to be ready to win in this
No
league.
doubt.
It's a
No
grown
doubt.
man's league, and I don't know if and Joel's close, but is he there yet? I don't know.
All good observations, I think, on your part. In terms of trading Ben, of course, it depends on what you get in return. I can't help but think that he is an unbelievable defensive player. I can't help but think that at 6'10", he can get anywhere on the court that he wants. If you could somehow get his head straight and at least shoot a couple of jump shots a game, Giannis's game is perfect as far as I'm concerned. A guy who is a tremendous player for his height, but at least will take a jump shot or two, or take a three, 2 or 3 times a game, and hit it enough to be respectable. And look at what he did from the free throw line in their game clinching, in their series clinching game. So I think if you're Ben Simmons and hopefully you're watching Giannis Antetokounmpo, there are some aspects of his game you could take and hopefully incorporate.
So you've spent time with Monty Williams, and these clips that are being thrown around these NBA finals are just spectacular. You know, the way that he speaks to his team, the message. I love it. I honestly get the goosebumps at times listening to him, and the way that, you know, he delivers messages in these moments. What was it like with your time with Monty Williams?
Monty Williams became a go-to guy. As a broadcaster, frequently the assistant coaches have more time. They work individually with the players. They're more willing to give you an opportunity to get a little bit beneath the surface. And as they begin to trust you, they will reveal some things that give me the opportunity to paint the picture for the fans. Monty Williams, I always say there are certain coaches who give you coach speak, and there are certain coaches who, when they trust you, can give you aha moments. And he was one of those guys who gave you aha moments. Remember, he he played for Larry Brown, who to this day I think was one of the more brilliant coaches in NBA history. And I want to say he played for him in his career as well. He's played for and coached with a number of great guys. He is, and especially considering the tragedies in his life, an unbelievable combination of coach and human being. So when you have that combination, and quite frankly, I think Doc Rivers is the same. When you have that combination, it allows you to be a great communicator and coach on the X and O level or the practice level or whatever it happens to be. So I was elated for Monty Williams and the success that he had. And it would not surprise me to see that team come back and win the title next year.
Yeah, I'm fascinated to see, as I alluded to earlier, with the growth of things. You know, Devin Booker, this is a tough moment for him, but he's 24 years old. How is he going to respond? With Chris Paul, you know, hopefully he gets another chance to do it. But with Devin Booker, it's like I enjoy watching these stars blossom, and I enjoy their journey, I feel, more than most. To some, it's they either stink or they're good. They win or they don't. And to me, it's I want to see them lose and grow and feel the pain. And not like I don't enjoy watching them have pain, but it's a part of sports, and
Sure.
it's the journey with these athletes. So I'll leave you
Sure.
with this, Stu.
Sure.
And this is probably the most basic question that you get a billion times, but obviously after such a long career, you've been through so many moments with Allen Iverson and before that and Joel and all that. But just in general, what moment sticks out to you the most? I'm sure that is the most cliche question you get.
You mean in terms of like something that happened on the court or something like that?
Yeah, something on the court, like a call, a big moment, a call that you're always remember that sticks to you when someone says your favorite call, the biggest call, like that one that comes right to your mind.
Yeah, I'm going to disappoint you and say it was not one, but I always refer back to a playoff game. It was May of 1999. And the Sixers had not made the playoffs in my tenure, and they had not made the playoffs for 8 years after Charles Barkley was traded. And so with Iverson, in a season that a lot of people thought wasn't going to be played, 98-99 was a lockout season, it was only 50 games. They were 28-22, and they made the playoffs for the first time in 8 years. They were a 6 seed. Orlando, their first-round opponents, a 3 seed. They go down to Orlando. They split. Then they come back to what was then, I guess, First Union Center, Core State Center. I don't even remember anymore. And I swear that the crowd did not sit down from tip-off to buzzer. At least it felt like that. I remember Iverson went crazy in that game. He had an NBA record that still stands. He had 10 steals. So you can only imagine how crazy he was in that game, running around the floor. And of course, he got his points. There were some near fights in the game. And I just remember not being able to hear myself think and just looking around and saying, wow, this is what the playoffs feel like. This is really cool. So the Sixers ended up winning the game. They won the series. They would lose the second round to Indiana. But I remember that as a seminal moment for me in my career.
That's awesome. I remember the moment going from the process to Ben Simmons and Joel getting in the playoffs for the first time. I'm like, wow, I forgot what it felt like. So to a degree, I guess I'm on, I know what that feels like too. The emotion and the reaction to all the fans and all.
For sure.
Stu, I want to thank you so much for taking your time out of your day to hang out, and congratulations on the retirement. It's been a hell of a ride with you in my living room every night at 7 o'clock on NBC Sports Philadelphia.
Broads, appreciate the love, and I'm going to be checking you out. You're going places, my man. So don't forget us little people.
Oh, yeah, okay, that's how it works. Oh, thank you so much for all the kind words, and I hope everybody enjoyed the first episode of Schmoozed.